Sistars talk about? Is this the third one here? Or fourth one here. So without further ado, let me introduce you to your hosts. Looking all nice and that. Go and give a round walk. We'll welcome and applause to the two ladies we're here for. Fiona and Naomi, back from Jamaica. Did you bring us anything back?
Yeah, we came back safe and so we brought ourselves.
Kings and Queens, welcome to Sisters Talk About. My name is Fiona.
And I'm Naomi.
And we'd like to welcome you to Sisters Talk About. So, thank you for coming. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence. It's lovely to see you all here.
Yeah, thank you for being here with us.
If you want to talk a little bit about what Sisters Talk About is.
Yeah, so basically, I guess like fear kept on ducking in, and so then we was just like, yeah, not yet, maybe another time. But then just one day we were just like, yo, like, you want to have a phone conversation tonight? It's like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go onto Instagram, and then that's how it started. And yeah, at first we were just chatting to ourselves, getting a joke, and then people was joining us, getting joke, and yeah, it's just built over time. And like last year we realised, even though we was doing it naturally, but it came to us last year, it was just like, yo, like, I think our aim and our mission is basically bringing the black man and the black woman together. Let's talk, let's listen, let's respect one another, let's love on one another, because we're in a day and age right now where it's like conquer and divide, and it's from both sides and we can't tan it. So yeah, like our vibe is like love overall and us coming together. Let's talk, let's listen and respect one another.
The floor is open to everybody, so please feel free to speak. So kick it off, sister, cousin, friend.
Okay, so the first half, basically, because we've been thinking about femininity, like feminine energy, and what it means, what it is, and then that brought us to like talking and thinking about, like, does a man desire, look for a feminine woman, and what does that mean? So then we're doing a lot of research and listening to different people speaking, and then I came across some words by a gentleman that some of you may know, Stephen Labossiere, aka Stephen Speaks. And he says, a woman who walks in her femininity walks in her power. Tapping into your feminine energy is a wonderful, amazing thing. Being attentive, caring, considerate and nurturing are all very feminine qualities that men love. Then he goes on to say, I want you to understand that divine feminine energy is very powerful, and once you understand men and be able to know how to be feminine, then you will start to see improvements in your dating and relationships overall. Be sure to embrace your feminine traits. Me personally, I do believe that. I embrace my feminine energy. I know that, that we have feminine and masculine, but I embrace my feminine energy and I feel powerful within that. I don't feel like being feminine is being weak or anything like that. And I'm doing it first and foremost for me, but then to hear that men are attracted to that, it's just like, to me it makes sense. But yeah, I would like to hear, would you like to say something next? And I will bring it to the floor. Maybe not.
I'll say, for myself, I think it's something that I've grown to love, because I'll say when I was younger, I wasn't about that. Because I really thought it was a weak thing. It was weak. No, I'm independent. No, I can. No, to be feminine, no, it's weak. No. I need to be strong. I need to be masculine. I need to be as strong as the man then. But then as I matured, got older, different relationships, breakups, getting back different relationships, and then I realised actually, like you said there, embracing that feminine energy draws in the men, and I found that it makes the men more, that's what I personally found, the men were actually drawing
Yeah.
closer to me.
Yeah.
After I realised that I actually embraced, and I felt empowered. I feel good.
Yeah.
Hey, look at me, man. Hey, look at me. I'm embracing all my feminine energy.
I would like to interject and say I did go through a period when I was younger when I was like a tomboy. Well, I used to be like a girlies girl, but then that was because I was following my sister. But then my sister moved away and left me. So now I was just like, okay, I'm gonna have to follow my brother. So then I turned into a tomboy, and I failed miserably. I failed miserably with trying to be masculine. No one took me serious. So I fell back. And I was just like, ain't doing this no more. But yeah, as I've got older, going back to the saying, like, I embrace my femininity. I don't feel no shame about it. And yeah, like as Stephen says, there's a lot of power. There's a lot of power, and as women, like, we hold so much power.
Divine feminine and divine masculine is a bit like a game of rock, paper, scissors. And I feel like we clash when we're doing rock at the same time, you know. And I feel that obviously divine masculine is a type of energy that has a type of strength, but it's a strength that is overcome by smoothness, and that smoothness is what the divine I see as what divine feminine is about, you know. And I feel like in a heated conversation, I don't expect to, like, you know, receive that kind of energy that you get from another male from a female. I feel like to win, or for the female to win, I feel like you're more likely to win with smoothness. I feel like that's what, like, brings me back down to, like, what's really happening here, you know. So I definitely agree with you guys that, you know, the divine feminine is a very powerful energy. It's an energy that complements the divine masculine, and yeah, that's that.
Okay, cool, thank you. So ladies with smooth. Smooth. Hey. You be the smooth one.
I sort of identify with both of you. I grew up with mainly boys. I'm the first girl, and I was a tomboy. I mean, I would say I am still a bitch. I'm girly, but I'm not feminine. I guess I'm still trying to sort of embrace my femininity. And I think it probably starts from how the male figures that I grew up with saw women. So it kind of made me want to sort of prove myself that I can do what the boys can do. And for a very long time, and probably even now, I'm still sort of trying to say that, you know, I can take care of me, I'm not weak, and all that. But at the same time, there's a side of me that I recognize naturally I'm a nurturer, and that's the feminine in me. But I feel like for me to be able to be like that, I've got to be in a safe environment. So the men have to create a safe environment for us to be like that. And I think that starts with, I think that starts with how we raise our men. And so girls can grow up feeling safe to be feminine, to feel like how they are is not a weakness, it's just another added value to humanity. Because we suppress that to try to prove ourselves, to try to protect ourselves. Where really we actually want to be feminine and let the man be the man. And if the man is not showing that he is capable of being safe, then unfortunately the masculine side, which we all have, comes out.
My name's Godwin, and just want to big up Shaq. You know, the man can reach. So the video there, yeah? Also, I'm going to big up Naomi, and my Facebook friend.
Oh, you can.
So I saw the bogle.
I know his face.
I'm not going to expose the picture of the bogle at Jamaica, but yeah. Put it on, girl. So anyway. Stays in Jamaica.
In the
I only posted.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to show you.
But from a male perspective, I think yes. Listen to all of you here. I think we look at the war that's going on at the moment, and if I talk about brokenness, and that incorporates both sides of the story. Until you're broken in a real relationship, you can't really connect to your divine energy. So we go through wars. The women act in a masculine. Some of the men identify feminine, but they're scared to show it. Until we create a safe space for both of us to feel comfortable in our relationships, we're at war. So, embrace the brokenness, understand the energies that are going there, Show love our women, because it's the world around us. Because we've left that ancestral background or foundation is where we're at war. Finding divine energy in man and woman, I can identify with my feminine energy. Doesn't make me less a man. I connect with my ancestry, so I don't get lost. And if we can love each other and look back to our ancestral plane, black love happens. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to say that I think that a man who connects with his femininity is more of a man. No?
Yeah.
I thought I'd just add that.
Hi, Jonathan. I just want to say that from the bits that I've heard so far, I think there's space for someone to be independent and feminine at the same time. I think sometimes the words that we use have made us think, independent means masculine. So when you're independent, you're masculine. It's just, I think it's about approaching the heart of the person that's in that way, embodying that attribute, if you like. And I think it's then in how they express that attribute that then determines whether they're moving in a feminine way or masculine. Like, you can be independent, you can be walking in your power and all of that stuff and killing it in the world and still be feminine, right? And you can be doing that and still be masculine. And I think sometimes we have to be careful of the words that we use, because the more we attribute these words, the more it becomes difficult for then, like a young person, male or female, to look at that word or that attribute and think, oh my gosh, I shouldn't be like that. So I think there needs to always be some balance and some like sort of understanding of, okay, in this situation, I need to be like this because this is what's best, right? And that's what you're doing, and go for it and do it and kill it in whatever mode that you're moving in. But yeah, that's all I want to say.
Thank you.
I'm Pebbles. I think the key words that resonate with me from previous people that have spoken is safe and balance. Because for myself, like the two other sisters, I grew up with predominant boys. I was only girl, sorry, with 4 boys. So I didn't embrace my femininity until my late 30s. And it's because I was surrounded by the male energy, which was all good, but I didn't feel confident in myself to embrace my femininity. But as I stepped into myself and started to know myself, I then embraced it. And for me, there's nothing more beautiful to be with a brother that stands in his masculinity, but also has the balance of knowing his femininity. Because for me as a person, I would say I'm an independent woman because of my journey, and I'm also a strong woman, but also nothing more beautiful for me to be with a brother that's able to stand in his masculinity, so then I can ease in my femininity because I know I'm safe. So yeah, that's my contribution.
Safety. That is a recurring word for me. Like, if and when I go into a relationship, I need to feel safe. I need to be safe. And within that is me being safe to be myself, to be like, for me to, it's like I'm naturally nurturing and loving and caring. However, the more safe I feel, the more I will nurture, you know. So yeah, definitely a man that's able to like, yeah, be in his divine masculine and cover us both and trust my feminine energy, and we come together.
I think for me, I resonate with Pebbles in a way when she said she came into her femininity in her 30s, around her, I would say for me it was my late 30s. Yeah. But you probably thought I was in it because I was looking fine. But it's probably into my late 30s when I started to come into my femininity, and I started enjoying myself, if you remember.
Yeah.
And this particular relationship that I entered into, and that's when the balance came in.
Yeah.
Because I realized he was masculine, he was strong, but then he also had that feminine side as well. And that wasn't something I was used to. It was very, very different for me.
Yeah. It's like a culture shock.
Yeah, it was a culture shock, but then, like I said, the balance.
Yeah.
So yeah, yes.
Thank you. I've been enjoying everyone's comments so far, just been listening. And what I would like to add to the discussion is I feel like it's so important that we put a lot of emphasis on self-love, whether we're in relationship or not. Because what I've found personally, when you say words like safe and balance, I find that sometimes you might be in a relationship with someone and the energy that you're giving them is based on what you've experienced before. And a lot of times we have unexplored childhood traumas, dysfunctional families, a lot of stuff, baggage that we're carrying, and we're behaving in a particular way, which obviously we're now characterizing as masculine / feminine or whatever, but actually it's not that. It's that you've got shit that you need to deal with, and that stuff that you need to deal with is the stuff that is making you act a particular way. So now when you're being combative all the time, you're wondering why. That's why. And I feel like in my journey, obviously my partner is amazing, but in my journey I have had to look at myself a lot more, and it's even when we got into the relationship, it's my dream relationship, but I've still got that stuff that I have to carry, and until I deal with it, I can't put it down. So I feel like that's where a lot of us go wrong. We need to put more emphasis on looking internally and resolving issues that are there.
For sure, definitely.
I totally agree.
Because I kind of feel that my take on what you just said, totally agree with it, because we will finish, we will end, and relationships will end, we'll come out of that relationship, go straight into the other one, but we haven't dealt with the trauma from that relationship, and we're bringing all that baggage, all that hurt, all that pain into that new relationship, putting it on to the other person.
And my addition to that would be the cure. And where do we look for the cure of that? Because you talked a lot about broken relationships and how we grow up. And my personal experience and trying to redefine myself was dealing with a lot of my past, coming from being raised by a woman and having lots of women around me, and that creates a lot of challenges to finding your masculinity. And a lot of the women I was around, they didn't have men around, so they had to take on those masculine roles and therefore be aggressive at the time. So my addition is more about where do we find the cures when we are looking for those places to go and be more humble and be vulnerable and use vulnerability as a strength. And letting young boys and young men and even older men know that it's okay to be calm and to be more resilient and to have those kind of nature and traits. And I find our community don't talk about therapy enough. And that's my addition in terms of finding ourselves, and therapy is a big thing. And working with our young people on those, and our older people on those kind of levels.
Hi, lovely, thank you for coming. Is it Pebbles?
Yes, Pebbles.
Lovely name. So tell me what you think about Sisters Talk About this evening.
Firstly, the venue is amazing,
Yeah.
comfortable, relaxing.
Yeah.
The vibe is just nice. What was I don't know what I was expecting, but it's been beautiful. It's been beautiful.
Nice.
It's been beautiful. The conversations, the listening, the sharing, and the openness. So yeah, it's
Amazing.
well
That's
received.
That's good, that's good. So it's your first time?
First time.
Okay, and will you be coming back?
No, definitely.
And bringing some more sisters and brothers with you?
You're gonna, this is gonna be too small for you.
Amazing. Oh no, that's what we're hoping for.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Pebbles.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
One thing that comes to mind is, in society we're kind of pushed, well, women are pushed, especially black women are pushed this narrative of being a strong black woman. But what is that? Because if you think about it, no other nationality has that term stuck on them all the time. So that means you're not allowed to show emotion in public, or you're not allowed to be weak or feeling like you can't do it more. You just push this narrative, you need to be a strong black woman. You know, for me, you guys must be tired. So, you know, if you feel that you need to show emotion, you feel like you need to show your what's the word? Feminine side. By all means, it needs to be done. You know, I've been married 6 years. 6 years? 6 years. We're gonna have the masculine side when we get home. So for me, it's like. Masculine side right there. So for me, it's a balance, because even when we argue, you know, that feminine side can quickly switch to the masculine side, you know. And I think, again, someone mentioned it being like rock and scissors and stuff. It is literally that on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis. It's just a cycle of learning each other. And I think if you don't have that switch between being feminine and masculine, you haven't got that person fully. And I think you do need to have that compromise between both of them. And obviously your feminine side will be more used because you feel safe, as someone else mentioned. So I think, you know, that's my view on it anyway.
1 second. We've got a question to our host and to the room. Nats 4795 says, do you think being raised by a single parent has a major effect on male or female children?
I would say yes, for both.
Yeah.
Especially, I would say yes for both, and I feel it's important if it is a single parent household. For example, if it's the father, that child has a female role model around. It could be an auntie, it could be a cousin, but as long as there's a female role model that they can connect to. And I think it's the same if it's the mother raising the family and there's a boy, there needs to be that. It's important for him to have that male figure that he can connect to and he can speak to. I'm not sure what your thoughts are.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. The single father, single mother, that the children are still surrounded by, like, if it is a single father, then there are, like, as she says, like an auntie or other, like, strong role models, like female role models around them, and then vice versa. If it's a single mother, for there to be strong, you know, male role models around them. And then going back to, like, does it affect the child in a single parent household? It can do, and it does, and it goes down to, like, the perspective of that particular parent as well. Like, how are they parenting? Like, what does parenting mean to them? Like, what do they display in parenting? You know, so there's so many different sides that we can go down to. You know, but it will come down to the perspective of that parent that is the main parent looking after the children. Like, are they allowing, like, if it's a single mother, are they allowing the children to have a male role model? Or are they dismissing that? and with the single father, is he allowing the children to have a female role model, or is he dismissing that? So yeah, the perspective of the parent definitely.
And the
is
thing,
key.
one thing I'd add to that is, a mother isn't a father, and a father isn't
is
a
not
mother.
a mother.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, totally agree with that. I know, oh gosh, I think it's going back a few years, and so it was Father's Day, and there was a lot of women saying, like, basically Happy Father's Day to themselves. And I can't remember like word for word what I said, but it was along the lines of, but you're not the father though. And yeah, and they was trying,
Let the father have his day. It's the
like
father's day, let
basically
them
the
have their
clause
day.
came out, and it was just like, but it's facts. I'm not disrespecting anyone, and I'm not taking away what you do for your child, what you do for your family, but don't take away this moment for the men. And because if it was to happen on Mother's Day, for a man to say Happy Mother's Day to
Yeah, you're done there.
it wouldn't
Fire and brimstone.
so it's just like, it can't be one rule for us and then a different rule for men. And I know that's where there's there are times when I may put in a little comment, one or two, but then there's other times when I just bow out, because I'm like, I'm not going to get into arguments with people. Like, we come from, our perspectives are different, my outlook is different, and again, like, what I constantly see is divide and conquer, woman against man, man against woman, and I'm just, I have no part in that at all. It doesn't interest me.
To the brother, when he said if I'm tired as a strong black woman, yeah, I am tired. But I've had for me, in my journey, I've had to be a strong black woman, you know, running my own business and bringing up 2 children, not having the input of their fathers, due to them holding on to their past traumas and not being able to embrace themselves as a man and themselves as a father. I've had to be that male, female, and it's interesting when you made a comment about you know, being a single parent and the effects on children. My 17-year-old daughter, I observed her carrying my traits, and I've had to speak with her because her now talking to a young man, I've seen my own reflection, and I've had to say to them, it's okay to be confident and to be assertive, but there's a thin line between being confident and arrogant, and you need to be able to stand in your femininity and not take away anything from him as a calmer brother who has the balance of being masculine and being feminine, and not taking away, not for her not to be that dominant factor to demasculate him. You understand? So that was interesting. It was only happened last week, so it was interesting kind of stepping out of myself and seeing her but seeing myself. So yeah.
I'm going to add to the single mom or single dad situation. I think as a parent, especially black parent, when we become parents, I think that's what has to be a conscious decision to look back at how we've been raised, the cultures we've been raised in, and decide if that's what we want to carry forward to the next generation. And that starts with healing generational trauma, so it doesn't pass forward. And I think also what you said about your daughter is exactly what I think I start seeing with my daughter as well. She's a bit of a tomboy, but her brother is older than her, and I think for her to embrace her femininity, she has to see me embracing my femininity. So I can tell her what she needs to do, but she needs to see me doing it. She's now going to be 11, and I'm starting to notice that she's starting to embrace her femininity. She was doing what I used to do as well as a little girl, trying to gain the approval of the male figures in my family. So she loved her brother's clothes, and I didn't want to be one of those parents that imposed on her how she should be. I wanted her to sort of, that's her journey. But because I was also processing my own stuff, I couldn't really model the feminine. So it's only until I was fully healed that I started to slowly embrace my femininity. And now she's starting to really, want to talk to me before bedtime, and she's into girly clothes, and she's throwing away all her brother's old clothes. She's still a footballer. I can definitely see her in me. But I made a very conscious decision to make sure their dad is always present, especially for my son. No matter what relationship we have with him. I mean, I didn't speak to him for years. It's only recently I sort of unblocked him. But I made sure. I made sure that the children always have a constant contact. I think it's also easy to sort of see other women, because I have to say I'm quite lucky in the sense that he's very involved. We've got an agreement, he sticks to it, and I do know other single women, they don't have that, and they literally have to do both jobs. And when they praise themselves, Father's Day, I don't really take an offense to that, because literally they are doing that. And I think it's not until you walk in someone's shoes you actually can appreciate that. It takes a lot of strength to actually not let, I can see how some women can stop men from seeing them. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I can see how that happens. So you have to be doing a lot of work in yourself to put the child's interest first.
I was just going to speak to the question from the person about single parents and does it have an effect. I think irrespective of whether it's single or two-parent household, whatever situation a child is raised in has an effect. And we need to move away from the stigma, because even young people in two-parent households need role models, right? Young people in two-parent households need therapy, right? So, there's this picture that's painted that's like, the minute it's two-parent, well, you must be alright. And if it's single, then, we need to work on you. We all need work at the end of the day. And I think it's one thing for the guardians of the child to have the awareness, openness and understanding to say, I have to do something within myself to help this person I'm the custodian of, right? Irrespective, and I'm using ambiguous terms because I really dislike, I'm coming from I don't even have a parent household, right? So I have a guardian household, and I'm really conscious of that. There's a lot of noise and people get lost in the noise, and we focus too microscopically on just this one thread. That's why role models are important. Those role models help shape the young person. They give the young person someone to look up to. I was raised by women, but I had role models which somewhat helped me. Could I have been worse? Maybe. Could I have been better? Hell yeah. But you know what? It ain't all bad at the end of the day. And I think that's sometimes we need to understand the balance and put, as a community, right, if that does exist, in my experience, it does exist. I think that can only be answered on an individual level, rather than trying to answer it on this big village. I'm not going to know every brother that I see on the road, or every woman that I see on the road, so I can only go from my experience. And in that experience, I think I've been blessed with people who knew that they weren't capable. From a young age, I knew that a woman couldn't raise me as a man. Right? I hated the saying, but I knew it was not possible. So even when I was getting married, I went to an uncle that's not an uncle, because I was just like, yo, I need to talk to somebody, right? Because dad's not here to be spoken to. So I think put the right structures around the young person, if it's single or two-parent, whatever it looks like. because broken people are broken people at the end of the day, and hurt people. So if we start looking at it that way, maybe there'll be less friction and it'll be less combative when we start talking about single parenthood. I do think, let me put my tinfoil hat on, there's something about the system that we live in, and we recognize it, that is built to empower the woman to feel in the situation like she is in the right place, but really it's long-term damaging. I was watching a clip the other day and someone was talking about who's more broken, black men or black women, and she came up with black women are more broken because or black men are more broken rather, and she explained it, and I was like, I'm not so sure. I think, no, I'm keeping 100 because I think what's happening is when we go, oh, this person's more broken because they go home and they're attacked. They've been attacked by a broken person. Right, something else has started that chain. It's a chain of events, and we're just seeing the thing just constantly. Like a lot of people are talking about seeing themselves in their children. That's the cycle that's constantly going back and forth, round and round, and we're scratching our heads. We can see it right in front of us, but we're still scratching our heads. The system is built to break the family unit down, whether it's black or brown, white or whatever, right? So if we understand that straight away, then we need to understand how to make it work for us, where we need it to, and where we don't need to embrace the things that we're like, no, we're not having this in our house anyway. So yeah, that's just my 2 pence.
I missed the beginning of all this, but going back to some of the points that some of the people just said back there, I want to ask a question. Quite often I hear people talking about trauma and this and that and the other, and fixing themselves and healing and all the rest of it. And it's, the cycle of change is exactly, it's a cycle of change. You go through it, you go back, you go forward, you go back, you go forward. You may never ever get to the end of it. My simple question relates again slightly to what that gentleman just said there, being how much responsibility do people take for themselves and their lives and where they are going? Blaming what happened to you as a child. You can go for all kinds of stuff when you're a child. One thing I work with children, have done for decades, children are resilient. They will get through round over the rest of it. But big people still complaining about, oh, this will not. I just don't think there's no excuse for it. At the end of the day, you get to a point where you are now in charge of your life and your decisions and all the rest of it. And it is then up to us to make the changes and the choices that will make it better and will end the cycles, as someone said. So, I just put that question to everyone. People need to take more responsibility. Individuals need to take more responsibility. Children don't, but as big people, we have choices, we make decisions.
Accountability. I would say we need to take accountability for the action and the choices that we make. And that's something when doing my self-development, I had to take accountability for those relationships I chose to be in.
Or more staying, because obviously we go into relationships, we don't know what's going to happen. But once we start seeing the damage, the trauma and the rest of it, staying within it, and more importantly, repeating those cycles, especially those people who can then talk about, oh, I see this and I see that, but you're still doing those same mistakes. There's not knowing and not doing is worse than not knowing.
Exactly. Taking accountability and then just bringing it back to, I think, what Jonathan said over there in regards to changing the cycle. Definitely agree with that, because I would say sometimes we need to change the narrative of how we were brought up by our guardians, our parents. Use that cycle, change that narrative, create your own narrative, and create and start your own stories.
And I also, another one I always say is also check the rhetoric. We all quite often have rhetoric. We'll say these things, last week you never heard of cisgendered or transgender, suddenly it's in the media, and next thing you're talking about, like, what you're talking about. And we need to kind of check, hold on, where did that thought come from? Suddenly I'm talking about this and we are directed and manipulated a lot, and we need to be very aware of that and actually check, do I believe what I'm saying I believe? Do I I just saw a video on my way here, and the guy was asking someone, "Are you black or white?" And the guy said, "I believe I'm white." And he said, the point being, if you believe it, then you don't know it.
You don't know it.
Exactly, and it's the same kind of thing. And going back to also what the gentleman said about one-parent family, two-parent family. As I said, I've worked with families for years, and it's about being a good enough parent. There's no perfect parent. It doesn't matter whether you're one parent, two parent, or the rest of it. You just got to do or be the best that you can be. And I think, again, going to that thing about deciding, this is what I went through, and I don't want to repeat, and I don't want to impose, and I don't want to traumatize and abuse my own. So therefore, make the choices that you need to, and the choices are actually very simple.
Yeah, they are.
Choices are very simple. A decision takes a second. So.
Thank you. Accountability. I think for me, when that word really hit home for me is when I came out of my last serious relationship, and I went through 2 bad relationships, and I was pointing the finger, he did this, he did this, he did this, and then I was like, but why was I there?
Total choice.
Yeah, and then it was a choice that I made to stay for, especially the amount of time that I stayed as well. It was like 5 years. Naomi, what the hell was you doing? So I really had to check myself and check my whole life history, and the traumas that started even before I met those 2 guys. Why I was attracted to those 2 guys and the way that they was treating me, and just like the storyline, and so throughout my 30s, that was because I broke up with him when just before I turned 30. So my 30s were the start of my healing journey, and when I was taking accountability for myself, I was just like, okay, I don't have children yet. I still don't have any children as yet. However, it's changing the trajectory of what future I want to introduce my future children to, my future partner to, and turning things inside out. So that's when things really change for me. And
I just wanted to add to I think that, what was your name again? Jonathan, I was really resonating with everything that you were saying, because again, it's us not defining certain terms as well, and there is so much stigma attached to single parent, and I think that we really do need to come away from that, because it's actually more damaging than, there's no solution based in it, because like you said, wherever you grow up, you're going to have trauma, you're going to have things that you need to work through, and it's about us trying to focus on being better parents, and a lot of the times that means, all the times, it should mean looking at our children, thinking about what it is that they need. And I grew up in technically a 2-parent home, but it was a domestic violence relationship. So there was both parents there, but obviously that came with its own baggage. And my mum was with him for 13 years. And when she finally left him, it was like, wow, I finally left him. But there was still so much healing. That was literally the beginning. And my mum has 8 children. So 4 boys and 4 girls. So I can see from all of us, looking at my siblings, that we've all been impacted, but in different ways. We have similar traits, but we also are so different, and it's just a matter of what that person internally is going to do with their life. Like you said, it's about accountability, because we all have to now decide, we're adults now, what are we going to do? What's going to happen? And I think that when we start coming away from these terms that have been injected into these conversations so we can react to them, then we'll actually start making much more progress. Thank you.
Thank you.
To answer the question about does a single parent impact on the child, then yes, definitely. I think what tends to happen, and
and I'm generalising here, I know this, with what I've seen, what I've sort of observed is families from the Caribbean, particularly single parents from the Caribbean, a lot of the time, even though like Jamaican men can cook, I'm Jamaican obviously, can cook, what you tend to find is generally they still get spoiled. So they don't do a lot of the housework and general domestic stuff. You know, especially if they've got sisters, they don't do stuff. Conversely, what I've seen or observed now is if you look at the continent, you know, generally speaking, there's two parents in the household, but still the boys get spoiled. But what they get shown generally is that the men are more masculine and they're more the breadwinner of the family. So I think what tends to happen with a lot of from the Caribbean, and this is just again observation. What I see happening is men that come from the Caribbean, they become reliant on their mum to look after them. And when they go into a relationship, subconsciously, they expect that of their partners. Me and my wife have had this conversation. We've had this conversation, and again, like I said earlier, it's a lot of unlearning because I didn't realise how much growing up in a single parent family and having my mum do a lot of stuff, and it's like, oh wait a minute, yes, I believe I'm masculine and I can do stuff and I can do household stuff, but then carrying that into a relationship, it's made me realise, oh wait a minute, there's something here. So there is that impact. There is that thing that, you know, there's a lot of unconscious things that we do, expectations, experiences that we carry into our relationships, into our life, into our way of living. So I think, yes, that does impact on the child if it's a single parent family. Going back to the point of women, you know, single mothers saying that they are the mother and the father when they're speaking on Father's Day, I think I can't teach a woman or my daughter how to be feminine. I'm not saying it's impossible, and I can educate myself, and I can appreciate the experience of periods and your body changing and all that kind of stuff, but it's not my lived experience. So no matter how much I want to be that man for my daughter, I could never be that. And I think conversely, no matter how much a woman can try, she's never going to be able to relate to her son the same way as a man can or the father can. And I think also when, you know, the whole comment of women on Father's Day going, I'm both, I think it's unfair because what they're doing, whether they realise it or not, is two things. They're shitting on all the good fathers who are there in their children's life and making a difference to their family and their household. That's number one. Number two, what they're doing is expressing their anger and their trauma at an absent man who has nothing to do with all the other men in this world. So I think, you know, like somebody said, I think, you know, if men started doing that and going, Mother's Day, nah, I'm more caring and nurturing than this whatless girl that's the mother of my child, there would be riots in the streets. You know what I mean? So I think
a lot of masculine energy.
yeah, a lot of masculine energy will come out. You know what I mean? So I think you just need to be careful about those women that are sort of saying, I'm both.
Yeah.
That's their lived experiences, and they don't need to shit on the day of men that are good and are doing their good things. And also, if by doing that, you kind of then make it harder for men to stand up and go, well, no. You want a man to be masculine, but you're shitting on the one day that celebrates him. You know, there's something to be looked at there.
I want to ask another question again. I always have to ask questions rather than make statements. But it's interesting hearing people talk, and so I heard everyone talk about masculine, feminine, role models, blah blah. Shouldn't we just be modelling to our children how to be decent human beings as opposed to male and female role models? Because again, they'll say that, and then in the second instance they're then saying, you know, male side, female side. I think it gets kind of confusing in so much as, you know, does a woman have to wear sexy clothing to be feminine? What if she does wear Timbs and jeans and what have you? She can still be feminine. But because we keep referring back to these gender stereotypes, then everyone, and I think as a black community, we subscribe to so many stereotypes that are just unhelpful, I think. So, you know, the question, again, as I said, is this idea of, you know, being good parents and also bringing our children up to be decent human beings, in so much as, you know, whether you're male or I always used to say, I can cook, don't cook. That's my thing. And I always used to say to my partners, even if I was gay, I probably still wouldn't cook. It's got nothing to do with me being a male or female. I just don't like cooking, or I don't, you know. And I, you know, yeah, I can imagine being gay, you know. But yeah, but I mean, this idea about, as I said, you know, we keep saying one thing and then contradicting it by then saying, oh, we have to gender stuff, you know, male, female, all the rest of it, and you know, teaching ourselves and our children to be decent humans, in as much as being helpful, in as much as, do you know what? My parents always taught me, you know, when someone comes through the door and they've got carrier bags, don't take the carrier bags off them. It's got nothing to do with male, female, all the rest of it. So actually, you know, and then going into relationships, you know, at the end of the day, it's not for well, obviously you choose your roles in a relationship, but at the same time, you know, it's not good to cock up your foot while the other person's doing everything. It's just not a decent thing to do, you know. Even if you can't, you go and help them, or you do the washing or dry dishes or whatever. So, as I said, just the idea of trying to push this narrative of being supportive to one another, whatever that may be. And I think also, I think we talked the other day about, sort of trust within relationships. Subservience. They must talk about being subservient these days, and also, and I believe that subservience in a relationship comes from trust. I don't believe, you know, should a man be the head of the household? If he's not most equipped to be, then maybe not. I mean, if the woman happens to have a better financial head or have a better job or whatever, I mean, what constitutes the head of the household? Should it not be the leader in that particular task or role? And by having trust within a relationship, I know that I don't have to battle with my woman, because I trust her enough that when she says something, I know she's saying something for the good of all of us. It's the best decision, so I don't have to battle it. I think we get into these battles because there isn't that trust or whatever. So someone's going to feel less than because they've become subservient. But we need to be able in relationships to be subservient to each other according to whatever we are dealing with or whatever. So yeah, a few points.
And the biggest thing I think society has literally eroded was the importance of grandmothers. And now grandmothers are 35 years old in the club. So they ain't helping out as they are. So I think that was a huge thing for me growing up. The support of my grandmother when my mother had to work and be that figure in the household. And I think I see a lot of this. And I myself work with children, and the erosion of grandmothers and the importance of those relationships and grandfathers. I think that creates a lot of unstableness, and it's easy for negative people to then take those roles, because time is the important thing that we need to give to children. And unfortunately, that's the one thing that's really difficult when you're a single parent, or even together in a relationship. It's about how you manage time and where the support system is built in any family.
Hi, I'm Shahid. I'm just going to quickly read the room before I do the statement. I think I'm one of the very few millennials in the room at the moment. Three of us maybe. What I've gathered from what everyone's saying is that, you know, black women and black men, we've got a target on all of our backs. And if you realise that society is already against us, and by us competing, it creates a bigger target. But they're really fighting amongst themselves. They can do it. Why are we tearing each other down? Where we can build up societies, we can be abundant, we can be resourceful, we can be great, successful. There's like, for example, my mom here, my auntie, these women have been through a tiny child, and they've raised me to the man today.
It goes back to the ancestral, as I said to you, we're all unbroken. We go back to the teachings of our ancestors, power, respect, love. Yeah? How do we overcome slavery? Do we have to still repeat the patterns of slavery? We must go back to the ancestral teachings. They broke slavery so we can come out of it. But you know, we've been trained to go back into it unconsciously. So you know, we have to look towards the ancestral. What's spoken again.
That was part one. So thank you all for your contribution.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. What we're going to do now before we break though is to remind you all, just to let you know of where your donate, well, where the money that you put towards the ticket, where that's going to.
Yes.
Before you do that, can you guys give yourselves a round of applause? Come on. It's been absolutely amazing. Right, I just have to do that. You know that's in my voice.
Yeah.
And as I was saying before, don't put the block button on me. It's just a little joke. Alright, so I'll turn my mic off now. No, there's no off switch on this one. Anyway, Fiona, as you were saying.
You already know, it's like Shaq, don't do it.
You don't talk? You don't talk?
Yeah. Patience.
You're sure you don't talk?
Patience.
Patience. I draw upon my patience right now and the feminine energy. As I was saying, the tickets you purchased, the money is going towards a program that a gentleman called Verol has started in Tottenham, helping the community.
Ladies and gentlemen, the gentleman is in the room. Can you go up to the front, please? Can you go up to the front? Wow. I want to ask you a question. Why didn't you want to go to the front? No joke. I asked this gentleman if he'd go up to the front and he said no, this is serious. And I want to ask you, why didn't you want to go up to the front?
I think, in all honesty, it's not about me, it's about giving a voice to those who are outside, who society doesn't talk about anymore. Homeless isn't a topic that's never really around dining tables or in family settings. We don't talk about it enough. So I think with the movement, with what's been going on and the PR I've had, it's to give them a voice. I know I can't end homelessness by myself because the powers that be hold poverty as a marketing tool to be elected for, you know, mayor candidates and stuff like that. So for me, it's more a situation where I can push these topics to be discussed more and more in society, like we're doing tonight.
But you said it's not about you. It is. You are doing a big thing, and I know what it's like. Where you don't want people to heap praise on you, but you've got to take your flowers, and this is your flowers here now. So. Absolutely amazing.
So before we're now coming to the end of the first session, but before we do, touching on what Verol's done on behalf of Verol, he said from the beginning, from the start, he's had such amazing support from one particular person. Mm-hmm. This person's had his back from the beginning, been his ride, not ride or die, his ride in life and his ride and live.
Yes.
And that's his wife.
Yes.
Raquel Morgan. And we'd like to present you with an award.
So would you like to come to the front?
Would you like to come to the front with a round of applause?
He was only messing about when he looked at you and said how long we've been married. You knew, innit? He just set you up.
I don't think he does know.
No, he knew. I could see it was a setup.
To talk about so far?
I think it's amazing opportunities. This is my first time.
Okay.
And it's great to our community can come and have a honest conversation in a safe environment. And I like the fact that a lot of people were asking questions.
Yeah. and giving their opinions
Yeah,
about different
exactly,
things.
yeah.
Because I think as well, it's nice that we have more men coming to the event at the moment, because it has been a predominantly women, and we don't want this to be looked at as it's a bitch fest kind of thing that women are just going to get. No, we want to have the other side. We want to have the opinions of both sides.
Yeah, so definitely, and I feel honest about it. I remember we spoke a couple of weeks back. I was worried going to be the only man here, so it's nice to see other men. And again, it's about being in a safe space. And I think this lesson we can learn from today that we can take back to our families and speak to our brothers, our sisters, our kids. So now we can all have an opinion and not shouting at each other.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Noel.
So the first piece that I'm going to do with you tonight is a piece called Young Me. I'm not going to explain too much, I'll just jump right into it. Young me. I've been missing myself lately. Young me just wanted to be carefree, but she never felt worthy. She thought she was unlucky being born into a family where she felt loved by nobody. Young me was no stranger to anxiety. She looked after the entire family like it was her responsibility, but she would worry. See, unfortunately, she was no stranger to seeing her father hit her mother. So she became a warrior then, because she did not have the strength to protect them. Young me was a prisoner in her own mind. Locked away from the source, she couldn't even see her own shine. Scarred by her experience, she barred herself from feeling or even accessing the necessary healing that she deserved. Still, young me did not turn out how I expected. My mind was finally unshackled by my audacity to be free, and I was able to explore all of my complexity, embracing every part of me. And that was the key. See, I've been missing myself lately, but now I'm feeling like maybe young me is still me. She just grew into the woman we both knew she could be. Thank you. And this piece is called I Wrote What I Wrote. I wrote what I wrote, and when I spoke, it was no joke. The same people who used to provoke me started saying I was dope. They said my writings were hella work. I used to choke on my words, you see. I knew lack intimately, so I lacked intimacy. I didn't say everything that came to me. I only found peace with the release of my pen. It grew roots, sprouted shoots and stem that protected me from falling. So often, it saved me from drowning or frowning, even stopped me from clowning. See, some people hear voices and run, but I write them down. On their tide I ride, I take them in my stride to many places, sort them into so many phrasing. And as I scribe, sometimes I cry. But guided by my higher self, in no time I find these voices inside my mind are not always all mine. No. Sometimes they are yours, that I've ingested, repackaged, then projected. So even when I rejected them, something was still holding me, lulling me into a false sense of insecurity. I narrated my story, knowing I still had cracks showing, but determined to keep on going. So I wrote what I wrote. Bars of healing, dealing with past hurt, sealing sorrow in containers too narrow to contain them. I was leaking onto the stage, this pending rage, so busy penning rage that it was pouring off my page. See, I was searching, looking for a me that I could finally believe in. And I bled, and I broke bread with the voices inside my head. I shed tears like skin, started growing and glowing, flowing, overflowing, because I wrote what I felt. I knelt down and submitted to the abyss, to the silence, no more violence. I just allowed myself to write down the voices. And instead of running, I stood my ground and I forgot all about the rope still hanging about my throat. I just wrote words, sentences, poems, new endings, new beginnings, need everything. I wrote what I wrote. Thank you.